One thing I've always encouraged my tarot students to do is to allow the cards they have drawn for a reading remain on their reading table for an extended length of time, rather than picking them up right away after they have been read. I find that coming back to the reading later with fresh eyes often gives me valuable insight I may have missed earlier. The message you receive from your cards is often not meant to be understood in a single moment, but rather to be considered as part of a particular pattern, a moment between the before and the after, or as part of a much larger series of events. If you've ever put together a jigsaw puzzle, you know that each individual piece does not make a lot of sense on its own. It's only after you discover how the pieces work together that you are able to complete the puzzle and get a very clear picture in front of you. My 6 pages comes close to that for me. In this video, I will share with you how a handful of tarot cards and several other key puzzle pieces fit together onto 6 journal pages that have changed my life. Greetings, welcome to Crone House. I want to confess something to you, and I'm asking you to let me know down below if any of this, what I'm about to say, rings true for you in your own life. I've been reading tarot for a long time, and especially since I am a triple Cancer, which means my ascendant, my sun, and my moon were all in Cancer at the time of my birth on my natal chart. I've always been really highly affected by the moon, and I understand the astrological energies that affect me because I am born under the sign of Cancer. As a member of a Wiccan coven, I participated in rituals that were dedicated to particular energies associated with each full moon during the course of a year. When I began bullet journaling several years ago, I religiously identified my tarot card of the year and used it to mark the beginning of each new journal at the start of every new year. And at every calendar's end, I drew a yearly tarot forecast, most often at the end of December, to show me what the tarot cards said I had in store for me during the following year. And I usually took a really pretty picture of that and displayed it very proudly at the beginning of my bullet journal for reference. I follow the seasons and I follow the wheel of the year, and I do understand that different times of the year hold different energies. I've always known that. I talk about it often and I write about it. But it wasn't until I began journaling in a particular way that I finally realized that the ups and downs of my life made sense if I put all of these things together. Then it started to make sense. And this is what these 6 pages are all about. Let's take a look. Okay, in my journal, I have what I call the 4 corners of my life puzzle. If you want to continue the theme of a jigsaw puzzle, and the first corner piece of my puzzle is what I call are the annual perfections Time Lord, and I'm going to show you that right now. And this is actually not a part of the 6 pages. This is 2 extra pages that are in my journal annually. Here we have it from June 22nd to 2024 to 2025. And here we have it from 2025 to 2026. And as you go, and then we're going to be coming up on 2026 to 2027. And the reason is because it changes on my birthday. This is my actual birthday coming up on the 22nd of June. So this is sort of like a view of coming attractions, if you will, in my little life's puzzle here. So as it being my birthday month, it's just time for me to renew this, to change my Time Lord. So I thought I would give you a little bit of a show for this. It's not really important to what we're saying here. It's just something extra that I do. So what I want to say is every year, this is based on my birthday, and every year, my Time Lord, and what we call the Time Lord is actually the ruler of the house. Okay, that is the guy in charge. Okay, he's called the Time Lord, and every year we change and we have a different Time Lord. And the Time Lord for me coming up that was in 2025 was the ruler of the year, or the Time Lord was the sun. Because here I was in my second house, which was in Leo, and the a little hard to see, I'm sure, but the planet that rules the second house on my chart here with Leo is the sun. Okay, so my Time Lord was the sun. And why does that matter in my journal? It matters because the sun represents self. The themes for the coming year are going to focus on identity, your confidence, the way you express yourself, the way you view yourself, okay? And also, it's in the second house of Leo, so it represented possessions, finances, self-worth, etc. So that was my sort of overall theme for the year. But now it's time, coming up on the 22nd of this year, I'm going to be changing, and from moving from the second house, I'm going to move to the third house. And my Time Lord is going to change. Instead of being the sun, my Time Lord is going to be Mercury. And that is in the house of Virgo, okay? So the theme for this third house is about communication. It's about learning. It's about your environment, okay? And Mercury is the Time Lord that indicates how learning flows naturally, how it would come to me naturally, or how it can prevent a challenge maybe with communication. So that's going to be interesting. And when it rules the third house of my communication, there can be some miscommunication, but there can also be some reconnection with old contacts, those kind of things. And the one thing that is important for me to consider, not important necessarily for everybody, but for me to consider, is because Mercury is my Time Lord, the ruler of my year. Anytime we have one of those famous Mercury retrogrades, which I usually kind of ignore. I know they're there and I kind of pay a little bit of attention, but I kind of really ignore them. But since that is my ruler, I have to pay attention. It's really going to affect me more than it would have in the past. So I'm going to be paying attention to not just retrograde Mercury, but also any aspects that other planets or whatever have to do with the planet Mercury. Okay, so that's what I bring up. Okay. Now, this is just a very brief introduction, but this is, again, not part of my 6 pages, so we're going to continue. The remaining 3 corners of my puzzle, if so to speak, are absolutely on my 6 pages, and that's where we're going next. Card of the year. To calculate your card of the year, if you're interested, you would take, and this is one way of doing it, I think there are other ways, and I don't want to, contradict anybody who's already taught you another method, because I'm sure there are other methods. But what I do is I take my birthday, which is 6/22. June is the 6th month. 22 is the day, and then the current year. So this year of 2026 would be 6 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 6, which equals 20. So my card of the year for 2026 is number 20, which is the Judgment card. Every month in my journal, I get an image from a different deck. Here we have the Judgment card from the Dreamkeeper's Tarot. Here we have the Judgment card from the Deviant Moon. Here we have the Judgment card from the Tarot of the Abyss, and here it's called Awakening. And here we have the Judgment card from Shadowland, which is called Discretion. Okay, that's just some to go on. And what I want to know is, and how I use this in my journal is, I ask myself the question, how does this card play out in this month's energies? It's a part of my 6 pages. And what role is it going to play in those 6 pages? That's why it's here. It's not just for the pretty pictures. But if you want to know why I use different cards from different decks, I urge you to see the video, which I will link either below or at the end of this video, about why do we really need all these tarot decks. I tell you why. Okay, so I urge you to watch that video if you have not. But anyway, what I want to say is, what I do here in my journal is I take a summary of what the author says about the card. Okay, I can interpret it another way, but I want to know the author's interpretation always. So I have that here, and it's a part of my 6 pages. This is part of my 6 pages for January. Okay, part of my 6 pages for February is the Judgment card from the Deviant Moon, and I write a little summary about that, etc. And I go for the Awakening card, etc. Here we have the Discretion card, etc., etc. Okay, and I look at that card with how it relates to the rest of my 6 pages. If that makes sense. I'm kind of explaining it before I get there, but anyway, I think you'll see what I'm talking about. One thing I do differently from my old journaling style is that I no longer add a year ahead tarot forecast photo to my journal. I find the forecast much more useful when I can address each card separately during the appropriate month and see how the cards relate to the other corners in my 6 pages. After the cards are dealt out, I note each month's reading. The good man copies the cards and reduces their size on the printer. They're cut out and labeled on the back of each image, and all is stored in the pocket at the back of my journal. All of the storing of these cards and things, it can be done well in ahead. You could even put your cards out ahead of time, but I like to do this close to the beginning of the month because I don't want to be influenced by the cards. For instance, when I am working on March, I don't want to be influenced by what may be coming up in April. So I want to try to get March completed as much as I can before I go on to April. Okay. And like I said, and then of course this is the section where I just add a summary or something. Sometimes it depends on how long the explanation in the book is, but I add either a summary or something, or keywords or something that's really catching my attention about the cards directly from the author. This is not my words. This is really having to do with the meaning of the author's intentional meaning. Okay. Here you see, I just had this open. I see sometimes, from time to time, because this was sort of a tumultuous beginning to a year for me, I added a card from the Woman Runes, which is something that I do occasionally. I did it here to see how that might further explain what I was looking for. But normally I just use these 3 cards. Section 4, the 4th corner piece in my life puzzle that is here in my journal would be the moon cycles for the month. And the moon cycle, of course, you probably realize, begins at the new moon where we plant the seed, and at the full moon is when we harvest our intention, if we have any. Okay, hopefully we have some. So that's what we harvest. What energies do we harvest? Okay, so usually we write an intention that is based upon the energies. In case any that here they present themselves here at the new moon, in case there's any action that might be needed. And for me, I had a very special action that was needed because here we come into April. The moon in April was in Aries, okay, and Aries is that sometimes carries a special caution for me particularly, because the Aries moon is all about that energy of just acting quickly. It's almost an impulsive action. It's like, I'm not going to hesitate. I'm just going to go. I'm just going to go for it. Because Aries has a lot of confidence. Aries has a lot of fire. Aries has a lot of that energy to just go forward, depending on, I'm going to rely on, I already have knowledge. I already have, ability. I have instinct. I'm just going to go with it. I'm going to go with it. I'm not going to hesitate. That's a little bit contrary to what I experienced as a Cancer. The moon in Aries carried a caution for me that I wanted to address by creating a spell to help me from acting impulsively or making hasty decisions. Aries rules the self, and my Time Lord was the Sun, which represents self. which includes the manner that I express myself. My pro-affected second house in Leo involves my finances as well as my self-worth, so I wanted to prevent any reckless actions on my part. For this spell, I wrote a very strong intention and firmly set my mind on also taking advantage of the Aries energy to face something I have been putting off out of fear. My red candle was chosen to represent the Aries fire energy, the flame addressing what I am beginning, and the burning itself as I allowed it to burn down, addressing the fear I am leaving behind. Now I want to say I did all that before I added any reflections. Before I added anything to do with the cards that my take on these cards that were pulled for me, I did this first. Yeah. I wanted to make sure that my intention and this part of this ritual was making sure I had a really strong intention, and that is exactly what I did here. Okay. So then sometimes prior to the full moon, and in this case it was between April 17th, the new moon, May 1st, the full moon, this is when I put in my own reflections. This is when I put in my own reflections in my journal. What was the crow talking to me about? What was this crow trying to tell me? Okay. What was the perspective? What was the Knight of Swords trying to tell me? What was this Knight of Swords all about? What did I think that was? Okay. The reflections on my monthly forecast and the progress I was making included anything about highs or lows that was happening to me during the course of this moon cycle. Okay. So, this intention was added to reflect what it was that I wanted to harvest at this moon. Last thing that I put in here was a bonus card. I always add a bonus card, and in this case, I always, for this year anyway, and I think I will continue because I love it so much, I add a bonus card as a point of getting another opinion or getting some more advice. I pull from the Wild Unknown Animal Spirit. I love this deck. It's animal energies, and it's so calming to me. It is very familiar to me. It is very relatable to me. I have a special relationship with animals, and so it means a lot to me. So I could pull this card anytime during the course of this month, because this is also going to tell me, as you can see here on this example, this was the bear I pulled here for in April. I pulled the bear, which was an earth energy. What I like so much about these cards is they not only have a little, and I put a summary in here, and what I like about them so much is they always have some advice given with the card. Here we have, when I had the fox card, the fox was telling me, when in balance, when you are in balance, this is the effect it will have on you. When you're out of balance, how you will feel or how you react to things, and what do you do to bring yourself back into balance. And you have seen me so many times on this channel, so many times. Try to. I'm all about being in balance. You know, I wear these bracelets almost constantly to try to keep myself into balance. Yeah, I find that very helpful. I find that a very helpful energy. What I love so much about this form of journaling is how easy it is to see transitions from one month's energy to the next, and the ability I have to look back to past months and see patterns that emerge that affect the current month. For example, when I was the messages, the warning that I received here that I mentioned about the April's moon in Aries cautioned me against being impulsive, and that also showed up here in my tarot forecast. Again, I want to say the cards were dealt out in December of last year through this the Knight of Swords, which I usually talk about the Knight of Swords as, you know, running with scissors, you know, sometimes acting without really thinking, just being this unstoppable force that the knight is, that he's just going to go faster and faster and faster. It propels him. That was the same kind of energy that I was feeling when we were talking about the energy in Aries. Okay, Another example I have is the Hanged Man, which showed up for me. This is really interesting. The Hanged Man showed up for me in February as one of my cards. And if you look at the image of the Hanged Man, it was almost identical to the image that we see here in perspective, where the crow, here's the crow upside down, here's the crow hanging upside down, and it's talking about changing the perspective. Okay. And then we go to the discretion card, completely following that, where we have another perspective of being high above. Here we were hanging upside down to get a different perspective. Here we are rising above it and seeing what's coming from above. So I'm able to constantly look backwards and see, where did I see this? What was happening? And I can see how this is making much more sense to me than just a random reading would. Whatever style of divination you use, whether it be tarot combined with oracle decks, or tarot with maybe a Lenormand, or combining different things from different decks, combining different decks and readings, or maybe using runes in addition to your cards, whatever you use that you're comfortable with, I urge you to stop and be sure that you're taking advantage of keeping track of the messages that you received from all of these places. Write them down in some way, or in a journal, or just make a list, or whatever you want to do. Take a picture if it helps you, of your shot, of your layout, or whatever, and keep it so that you compare it with other future readings. You're gonna find that you are getting messages that echo each other from different sources. And it's really fascinating, but it's very helpful when you're trying to make sense of your life. If you're interested in the cycles of the moon and you don't know anything about it, you can always get books like this. It's called the Astro Moon Calendar, the Astro Moon Diary. And I've been using this for years. It's really funny because I've been using it. And it's a calendar, but it tracks all of the moon, what moon, where the moon is, positions of the moon in the sky. Also some aspects with where it's conjunct with with planets or whatever. It's really funny because it's also a calendar, and I use it for that. I've used it for years. Oh, there's really good charts and things in the back too. If you want to track things, if you want to get real technical, it's kind of hard for some people. I don't know, kind of for me. But anyway, it's a calendar, and I made a joke about this book a long time ago that I was using it for the information it was giving me with full moons, etc. Here's already the full, and the new moons are always in the cover. But it's also a calendar, and I was using it in addition to a calendar. Like, why didn't I just write on this calendar? I realized, like, not too long ago, this is an actual calendar. I can actually write on it. I didn't do it. But anyway, it can give you some information. If you don't want to have a book like that, or you don't, have access to something like this, go online. There is so much information readily available online, very easy to access, and a lot of sites will interpret things for you and help you understand how that affects you in your personal life. So I suggest that you do something like that if you want to know. Just dig into what you are interested in, and then keep a record. Just keep a record and see what difference it makes for you. Also, if you want to see how I interpret and actually use my own journal, I suggest that you join me on Patreon, where every month I post a little video, as I go through my own journal, and I talk about how those different, the moons and the cards, the tarot forecasts, and all these things, how they play a really important part in my own life, and how it affects me, what I do about it, etc. Okay, I would love for you to join me there. I would really love it if you could. Okay. So anyway, I'll have that link below if you're interested in my Patreon. I think it's down there. I don't know. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. I'm Rebecca, and I wish you blessings.